While we're only halfway through this season, some of the decisions from the 2023 draft are really not looking great. Now, anytime the topic of regretting a selection is brought up this early, it gets everyone going.
But it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
gets the people going.
This is understandable, just given how unpredictable the NBA can be. Things change in a blink of an eye. But contrary to popular belief, even this early, we've learned a lot. We often overestimate the time players are given to turn things around. Once players are selected in the draft, the clock starts ticking a whole lot faster. It's often assumed just because first-round draft capital gets tied to someone, they will be given an endless amount of chances. But that's just not reality with how valuable minutes and roster spots are in the NBA. The contracts themselves also give a lot less time than many realize. After only 2 years, they have team options that need to be picked up, numbers that become a lot more significant the higher in the draft you go. But even with all that said, making the claim like regret this early can be hard. So for now, let's just take a look at some spots in the draft and explore the possibility. We won't be deeming anyone a bust. In fact, regretting a selection oftentimes has more to do with other players exceeding expectations than anything. Take the Lakers pick at 17, for example. 6'6" Indiana guard Jalen Hood-Schifino. Leading up to the draft, Hood-Schifino was often mocked much higher than this, typically towards the end of the lottery. So getting him at 17 was looked at as solid value for LA, especially given what was ahead for them. Over half the roster was set to hit free agency, including their entire backcourt of Reeves, D'Lo, and Schroeder. It really didn't seem possible for them to bring all three back. So getting a backcourt addition at what appeared to be really good value seemed like an ideal outcome for them on draft night. But then surprisingly, they were actually able to get new deals done with Reeves, D'Lo, and while they lost Schroeder, they replaced him with Gabe Vincent. Once that happened, it didn't look like the Lakers had a big role for Hood-Schifino in their season plans. But so far, as many of you know, nothing has really gone quite as planned for the Lakers. A couple weeks ago, I got a nice early Christmas present when I turned $50 into $2,500 with today's sponsor, Prize Picks. Their platform is as simple as it gets. Different player stats and you just choose more or less. But now with their Demon and Goblin squares, Demons are higher than the normal square, Goblins lower, you can win up to 100 times your entry. I'm always cooking things up over there, and tonight, I'm taking LeBron and OG Anunoby points. But then I want to get some demons in there, so I'm going with the Joe Flacco and David Njoku combo on Saturday. Then I'm going with the Patrick Mahomes Travis Kelce combo. Everything happens, 25 becomes 1,400. But even if I miss one, I'm going to get over 5x. Keep an eye out as they've always got different promos or something new coming to Prize Picks. And if you guys haven't tried it out, if you go to the link in the description and you put in my code Jimmer, they're going to match your first deposit up to $100. Thank you Prize Picks for sponsoring. After only a few games, Gabe Vincent went down with an injury that still has him out indefinitely. There's been constant changes to the rotation, especially in the backcourt. Both Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell have gone down to the bench at different points in the season. We've even seen Russell miss some games with injury, but despite all of that, Jalen Hood-Schifino has rarely seen the court. His debut didn't come till the end of December when the Lakers were getting blown out by the 76ers. He played 11 minutes and missed all 3 of his shot attempts. In the following game, he would actually score his first points and put together a solid night, 10 points going 3 for 4. This earned him his biggest role of the season in their next game against OKC, where he played 18 minutes, but ended the night with just 3 points going 1 for 6. Since then, he's only appeared in 6 of their 17 games, played a combined 27 minutes, and has made 2 of his 15 attempts. Now, with such a small and inconsistent role, there's very little to take away from those numbers. In fact, we really just haven't seen enough to have a strong take about his future. He could easily go on to be a great player. But right now, the Lakers are dealing with a very short window of time. So with that being the case, seeing the immediate impact they could be getting from the player that was taken with the very next selection in the draft, there is probably some level of regret or at least frustration in the Lakers front office. At 18, the Miami Heat selected Jaime Jaquez, someone that's easily been the steal of the draft and the Lakers were more than likely very familiar with as he was coming off a 4-year college career at UCLA. He's played up and down the lineup in Miami, averaging 14, 4, and 3. Averages that are only going up. He's coming off 21 against OKC. On Christmas Day, he dropped 31 against Philly. As each game goes by, everyone's being forced to reevaluate the perceived ceiling of Jaquez. It really can't be overstated how much value he carries right now and would have brought to a team like the Lakers. His rookie contract pays him less than $4 million a season until the final year. Then to make things burn just a little bit more for the Lakers, the Warriors look like they hit with their selection, the very next pick after Jaquez, where they took Santa Clara guard Brandon Podziemski, one of the very few bright spots in the Warriors season so far. He's been playing multiple positions, proving to be a reliable shooter, facilitator, and at least high-effort defender. He also wasn't given a big role from the jump. He had to play his way onto the court, and it's hard to imagine he wouldn't have done something similar with the Lakers. Now, given what everyone knew at the time, no one faults LA for their draft decisions. But for a team that was likely looking for immediate production in the draft, it would be tough not to have some level of regret seeing the production we are from the very next guys to come off the board. Then jumping to the top of the draft, you get to some of the more heated discussions, mainly the Blazers' selection of Scoot Henderson with the 3rd overall pick, someone who so far has had his ups and downs, but unfortunately quite a bit more downs than ups. Over his 28 games, he's averaging 12 points and 5 rebounds, shooting 36% from the field and 29% from 3. Not great, not what Portland fans were hoping to see to begin the post-Lillard era. Now recently we've seen some solid stretches, especially when it comes to shooting, but just when you think he's starting to put things together, he has a performance like we saw last night against OKC. 13 points, but shooting 4 for 21 from the field and 1 for 9 from 3. Over the course of his 31 minutes he played, the Blazers were outscored by 56 points. At this point, being concerned is fully justified, but there is also still a lot of room for hope. We've seen a lot of early struggles turned around in a big way by previously highly touted point guards, Jamal Murray, Trae Young, and Darius Garland for example. Scoot still has a great chance to put it all together. What needs to be remembered is that it wasn't jaw-dropping production that made him such a sought-after prospect. Last year in the G League, he was only shooting 42% from the field and 28% from 3. All that potential that had everyone excited is still there. It would be way too early to even think of writing him off. However, again, there is valid reason to be concerned. But that's not regret. In order to have regret, there would have to be an alternative selection. Bringing up someone like Hawkes would make no sense. He was never in the conversation to even come close to this range in the draft. His success probably just has Portland wishing he made it to their other first-round pick at 23. So when it comes to the top of the draft, whether or not Portland regrets this selection really comes down to how they view what we've seen from the 5th overall pick to the Pistons, Ausar Thompson. While the Pistons are putting together an historic losing effort, many including myself are fully bought in on Ausar with the perimeter defense, unique rebounding, and physical tools that have been on display. In the event of a redraft, he's likely coming off the board higher than Scoot. But that doesn't mean he's close to putting it all together. He also has some serious hurdles to overcome, most notably a complete inability to shoot the ball. So until that changes and Scoot's struggles continue, frustrations might be there, but regret is unlikely. It's a similar situation in Houston, who selected Amin Thompson with the 5th overall pick. Someone who so far is averaging only 5 points, shooting 42% from the field and 17% from 3. Not ideal, but he has missed over half the season with injury, so for now, we're going to put that discussion on pause and go to a really interesting range in the draft to look back on. The second half of the draft lottery kicked off by the Pacers selection of Jarace Walker at 8. This was one of the least surprising selections of the night, and it really looked like a match made in heaven at the time. He would bring defense to a group that needed it, while bringing a level of athleticism and ability in the open court to thrive in the Pacers' fast-paced offense. It looked like he had a real chance to step in right alongside Miles Turner from day one. But that's far from what we've seen to this point. Shortly after making the selection, Indiana traded for former Knicks top pick Obi Toppin. That addition, combined with another jump from Jalen Smith, has made it really tough to find a role for Walker early. He's appeared in only 12 games where he's averaged just 8 minutes and 3 points. At first glance, this seems like a selection the Pacers would clearly be regretting. But when you take a closer look, they might actually be just as excited about it now as they were at the time. In fact, I really wouldn't count on Walker's lack of role lasting much longer. I say that because of not what he's done in the NBA, rather the NBA G League. When I saw his numbers there, I had to rub my eyes a couple of times to make sure. Once I realized my eyes weren't deceiving me, I immediately had to pull up the tape.
Back in action tonight.
When you have a guy like Tyrese the quarter.
Off the bounce again with the left, Jarace Walker.
Picks on the floor with these guys, or you can go and
Walker off the high screen. On the attack, lefty layup goes. On assignment from the Pacers, off the spin, here's another. Walker, rise and fire, connects. Walker. Jarace Walker heating up.
While yes, it's just the G League, 4 G League games at that, Walker's production is insane, especially someone whose stock was tied so heavily to defense. physical profile, and long-term offensive upside. In those games, he's averaging 27 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 52% from the field, 55% from 3, taking over 8 attempts a game, and 1.5 steals and 1.5 blocks. Ridiculous. It might be time to buy all the Jarace Walker stock you can get. Then with the 9th overall pick, we saw the Jazz go with Taylor Hendricks, someone who's been in a pretty similar scenario to Walker. The Jazz also made an offseason trade, this one for John Collins, that really hurt Hendricks' chances at a big role out of the gate. He's only appeared in 11 games for an average of 16 minutes. So like Walker, his biggest roles have come in the G League, where he's played pretty well. 19 points and 9 rebounds a game. Solid, but not quite the absurd dominance we've seen from someone like Jarace Walker. So while we still have a lot more to see from Hendricks, the Jazz might actually be one of the few teams starting to feel some regret, given what we're seeing from the very next selection. Someone who was often mocked to them at 9, Kentucky point guard Keeson Wallace. A player that showed out a big role in OKC and has been one of the most impactful rookies to this point. The defense everyone expected got him on the court from day one, but it's been his surprising shooting that's allowed him to play all over the court and has kept him out there. It's also probably been tough for the Magic to see the success Derek Lively has been having in Dallas after going with the 12th overall pick. One selection after Orlando went with Michigan wing Jet Howard, someone who's made just 9 appearances for an average of 4 minutes. Now after going with Anthony Black earlier in the draft, Lively was probably taken off the board with how much this team needed to bring in shooting. So in actuality, if there is being regret felt in Orlando, it probably has less to do with Derek Lively and more to do with the selection a little bit later, one that probably also has the Raptors avoiding looking back. Toronto decided to go with Kansas wing Grady Dick, a player that looked like one of the safest prospects in the draft with his ability to shoot the ball. But so far, we haven't seen much of that ability. In his 19 appearances for 12 minutes on average, he's shooting just 29% from the field and 25% from 3. Likely more concerning is the fact that in his 4-game G League stint, that didn't change. Once again, just 25%. For the entire draft process, there was a lot of discussion surrounding who was the best shooter in the draft. Was it Grady Dick, or was it UConn sophomore Jordan Hawkins, who ended up going with the 14th pick to the Pelicans? Someone who by no means has been perfect, but he has made one thing very clear, and that's his ability to shoot the ball.
Jordan Hawkins.
That's the thing, they're not out there.
Pels have shooters. You said it.
He has 5 assists now.
And Jordan Hawkins filling it up. Looking for Hawkins. Hot hand continues.
I can't, Joe.
With Jordan Hawkins mid-range. Jordan Hawkins. Good up fake. Yes.
Hawkeye.
Deep 3.
Hit him. Go ahead, boys.